Hi, this is Shaun Bradshaw with Zenergy Technologies, back with you again to talk about our fourth point in our series on transitioning as a tester from Waterfall to Agile. So the fourth one, and of course these are in no particular order, the fourth one is really more towards the beginning of the overall process of Agile, and that is related to the acceptance criteria in a user story. So what exactly are acceptance criteria? Well, in a user story, we talk about what it is that a product owner actually wants from this particular feature. The acceptance criteria is what the product owner says is the basis of making the decision if we actually did that work. In some cases, acceptance criteria are the same thing as actual software tests, but typically it's more general than that. Now, it's important as a tester to make sure that you understand the breadth of what the acceptance criteria are. In fact, we would even suggest that as a tester, you work with the product owner in identifying what the acceptance criteria should be. Now, acceptance criteria, there's not 10, 20, 30 acceptance criteria for each user story. Typically, it's just 2, 3, maybe 4. And they're pretty high level. I like to think of them sometimes as being similar to a charter in exploratory testing, if you're familiar with that. So while acceptance criteria may actually be a test case in some cases, more often than not, it's the general theme of what we want to test, which of course would then drive several test cases under that. Now, here's the thing. As a tester, and I've done this personally, I love testing. I like digging into the nitty-gritty. I like trying everything I can. I want to try to break the system. I want it to be the best it possibly can be and as robust as it possibly can be. With that said, as a tester in an agile environment, I have to keep my focus on the acceptance criteria. Now, that doesn't mean I ignore other areas that I may have interest in testing or that I think would actually be beneficial to go ahead and test. But it means first and foremost, what am I going to test? I want to ensure that the acceptance criteria are met. So in terms of prioritizing my tests, any tests directly related to those acceptance criteria are the first things I'm going to do. And then if I have time, I'll do what I might consider some gold plate testing, maybe some additional functional testing, some negative testing, things like that. Maybe even some non-functional type tests related to performance or usability. But unless it's key to the actual acceptance criteria as defined by the product owner, I'm going to leave those till later. So it's something important to consider as a tester making that transition into Agile. A lot of times we're concerned, well, we only have 2 weeks or 3 weeks or sometimes maybe even only 1 week within the sprint to do our testing, and we're like, how can we get all the testing we need to do? Well, realize you're probably not going to get all the testing that you want to do, but as long as you're focused on the acceptance criteria, then you should be okay. Realize too, there are other sprints to come, and so eventually you will get to hopefully do some of those additional tests. So that's our fourth point, making sure you're tracking and doing and testing to the acceptance criteria. We'll be back with one more point, our number 5 in the series, coming up next.